What is up, LCS fans, and welcome to the Week 2 Power Rankings. My name is Paulo, and today we are ranking every single LCS team following their Week 1 performance. So sit back, grab a snack, and comment your own power rankings down below. And without further delay, let's get right into the rankings. Eighth is none other than Immortals. I predicted this in my Week 1 power rankings, and this weekend only proved that Immortals is a budget roster with no identity and no sign of a clear leader. Throughout both of their games, we hardly saw anything outside of the substandard level of play that we've become used to with this organization. Between pulling full HP Olafs with ults right into the middle of 5 people, or simply getting outclassed in every single role. This is a team that only 2 games into the split, I struggled to see a pathway for them to even make playoffs. Their first match was against Dignitas, a team expected to get 7th. And while they maybe had 1 or 2 decent plays, they simply looked like an amateur team compared to Dignitas. Whether it's bringing a veteran presence or rebuilding the entire culture of the organization, something needs to change, or they'll be holding 8th place for the entire season. Not just this split, the entire year of 2024. Something has to change with Immortals. Dropping 2 spots from Week 1 is Shopify Rebellion. This is a roster that I really want to see succeed. Between the insanely likable bot lane of Wild Turtle and Zazel, and the confidence and pocket picks of Insanity. Over the course of both of their Week 1 games, we saw their bot lane perform exceptionally well on that Lucian-Nami combo. However, there's only so much that can carry you, and Boogie, as hyped as he was preseason, did not live up to the hype in Week 1, and he will have to turn it around massively and get more control on the map if they want to make a run for playoffs in Week 2. A big question surrounding this team going into Week 2. Who do you start at AD carry? Do you stick with the veteran presence of Wild Turtle, or does the 0-2 start force the org to swap to B-Voy? Regardless of what happens, they play Cloud9 and Immortals. That Immortals game is must win if they want to be a playoff team this split. Rising 1 spot into the playoff conversation is actually Dignitas. Led by XU, this team is actually so fun to watch. Dove popping off versus RNG with a quadra kill, almost pulling the game back, shows me that Dignitas is not a team to simply give up when they're far behind, which is a great quality to have, especially as a team that's usually ranked lower in the standings. One thing I really want to see from this Dignitas roster going into Week 2 is that bot lane having more control and being a little more stable. This will allow XU to spend more time with both Dove and Rich, as I feel enabling both of them could launch them straight into a playoff spot. In Week 2, they're the opening matchup of the weekend versus Cloud9, which is rough. But on Sunday, they do get to play versus 100 Thieves, and I feel like that will be a good contest to show everyone if they are a playoff level team or if they just overperformed in Week 1. Dropping 1 spot is none other than Team Liquid, who on paper faced a probable 2-0 week. But their past struggles came back to haunt them, and they simply couldn't close out the game versus 100 Thieves in a game that they had all of the control in. A good game plan and draft can win you the early game, but if you can't close out games, you're not an elite team, and that's what separates the good teams from the bad teams. We've seen very elite teams come back in games that they are super far behind because the enemy team simply can't close out the game. If this team wants to make Worlds again, they have to come into Week 2 hungry and showing no mercy in the mid to late game. Despite people still discrediting him, Yon actually had a very good weekend. Him and CoreJJ won lane handedly in both of their games. And when it came to late game versus 100 Thieves, that's a team issue. That's an immobile AD carry. Why are we not scanning bushes when there's a Riven with TP? Why are we not building more peel versus a team that has 3 different forms of heart engage? That's a team issue. That's not a Yon issue. They didn't build for him. They didn't build a comp for him. They did not defend him. That's not Yon's issue. That's a team issue. Team Liquid does have the tools to make Worlds this year. My concerns lie with Impact and CoreJJ, 2 players who came off honestly pretty mediocre 2023s. Both have been playing competitively for 10 years now, and in my opinion, they cannot afford to be inconsistent. You can blame the rookies all you want, but if you're holding on to aging players with consistency issues who are clearly past their prime, you're in a win now situation and you're not winning. So what are you doing? The young players are going to take time to learn. but those veterans need to be consistent rocks every single game. This weekend, I honestly need to see a 2-0 from this team if I'm going to be considering them a contender still. Cracking the top 4 is 100 Thieves, who come off an amazing comeback win versus Team Liquid, showcasing incredible map movement and putting faith in their young players despite their early setbacks. Yes, the Cloud9 game wasn't pretty, but honestly at this point, do we really knock a team down a peg for losing to Cloud9? This is a roster I would not be surprised if they made a run at top 3 even with multiple rookies. This roster in general has so much room for growth if they're already playing at such a decent level. One concern I do have about this team is River. This is a player that came in off a very strong 2023 and was expected to be the best player on this roster, but in both of their games in week 1, he kind of had no control, really hoping he can pick it up in week 2. They end up going 1-1 in a week that they were expected to go 0-2 in, and now with the Cloud9 win out of the way, I honestly see every single game as potentially winnable for this roster. Remaining at number 3 is FlyQuest, who remains only one of 2 teams to remain undefeated at the end of week 1. So how can they not be top 2 in the power rankings? Simply due to the quality of their opponents. The 2 teams they played, Immortals and Shopify, are a combined 0-4, so it makes no sense to put them in top 2 of the power rankings for beating up on the worst teams. However, they looked incredible during those games, so they're not going to drop any spots, but I just can't give them top 2 in the power rankings quite yet. Week 2 is going to be a much stronger indicator in their place in the current rankings. Masu stood out to me for having an incredible rookie week, which is super important for a rookie as it builds that confidence and eases them into the LCS. And if he can carry this and continue performing at this level, I would not be surprised if FlyQuest eventually pushes for a final spot. All 3 veterans performed to their level, and I feel like that's super important because I honestly believe all 3 of the veterans on FlyQuest have something to prove this split, and only time will tell to see if they take the number 2 spot after this coming weekend. Falling all the way down to the depths of number 2 is NRG, who in week 1 had a couple decent plays versus Cloud9, but in the end just could not keep up and eventually fell apart. Versus Dignitas, aside from one bad team fight, they had full control of that game. Even with Dove getting a Quadra, them losing Baron, them losing 4k of their 7k gold lead, they still won the game in under 5 minutes later because they just out macro Dignitas. Their macro is still clean. One bad team fight doesn't change that in the end. I still have them at number 2 because, like I said before, how much can you really count a loss versus Cloud9 against a team? Because at this point, it's a real possibility that Cloud9 just ends up 14-0. For me, next week, the match of the week is going to be NRG versus Dignitas, which will probably decide who gets number 2 in the power rankings unless something crazy happens. And with only 12 games left, that game could have massive playoff implications. Palafox probably had the best Corki game of anyone this weekend, and heading into a Nazir Corki meta, that is a great sign for things to come. Non-rational gaming will have to come out super strong this weekend, as despite their past success, they are already being counted out. What can be said about Cloud9 that has not already been said? Arguably having the best player in every single role. Better team play, better systems, and already having people talk about how are they going to perform internationally. We've seen a lot of super teams over the years, but one advantage that this Cloud9 roster has is this isn't just 5 random good players that were thrown together. A lot of these players have experience playing together. Even the 2 players that have come in won a title on a different org together. They not only have experience playing with each other, but also with Cloud9 as an org. The one question that fans still have about this team is, can Fudge play carries, and can the rest of the team adapt to that? This was a point of contention at Worlds, as there was a lot of resources put into Fudge on carries, and it didn't pan out. However, the team as a whole is so much stronger now. So that's what I want to see as Cloud9 gets higher in the standings, solidifies their playoff spots. We need to see them diversify their playstyle, heading both into finals and international play. Wait, never mind. There is one more question about this team. Who the hell is going to be the first team to take a game off them? Because right now, Cloud9 looks red hot. They are looking better than people expected them to in week 1. Really quick, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and also follow my Twitch. Everything's linked down below. I upload 3 to 4 LCS videos every single week. I will see you guys this weekend for both daily recaps. Much appreciated, and have a wonderful week.